Good afternoon, everybody. This is what we call good news. This is something to celebrate. And last night we passed the 1-year mark since the first person we lost in this city to COVID, and we have had a long year filled with a lot of challenges. But we can feel a lot of things getting better now. And it is a moment today to celebrate one of our heroes, one of our sheroes, one of the people who made such a profound impact on this country. And we do this for so many reasons. We do this because it is Women's History Month, and there is no greater example of someone who changed American history and women's history, no greater example than Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We also do this today because today is Ruth Bader Ginsburg's birthday. Let's give her a round of applause as she will hear. And I'm just going to offer a quick thought here. And I'm going to speak as a Brooklynite. That this extraordinary story of someone who envisioned a different and better society and then performed acts of courage and insight and strength and intellect to actually bring her vision to realization. This story begins in Brooklyn. This story begins in Brooklyn. That is what is now Maimonides Hospital, in the streets of Midwood, at PS 238, at James Madison High School. And what I love about the story of Ruth Bader Ginsburg is there is not a hint of being born with a silver spoon in her mouth or born to privilege or expectation. What she created herself. That's part of the celebration. And this is what New York City is for so many of us. Her mom worked in a garment factory. Her dad was a furrier. This was not about privilege. This was about her abilities and her vision. And I think she took from what Brooklyn is all about. The incredible ability of Brooklynites to envision things that are different than the way they are, and the spirit and the spunk and the energy. I think she brought that all together. And there's a story which is amazing. At the age of 13, she wrote an essay. And this is when she was attending the East Midwood Jewish Center. And she wrote an essay calling for change in our society at the age of 13. In a very different time. And she also questioned in those times why the honoring and the celebration of a young man with a bar mitzvah was not met with the same respect for a young woman with a bat mitzvah. She was asking these questions in her earliest years. And then she turned those questions into a powerful energy source to create change. The last thing I want to say is we went through something in this country in the last 4 years where we now can say openly our democracy was threatened. We can say openly that the voices of exclusion and discrimination were gaining strength and power. And we needed to keep our hope, and it was not always easy. There were a lot of moments where it felt like things were slipping away. For me, and I think for millions and millions of Americans, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was one of the reasons we kept believing. Because she was there on the highest court in the land, because she exemplified what democracy is supposed to be. She was a living counterpoint, a living rebuttal to the effort to take us backwards. And even when we lost her, The outpouring of love and respect reminded us of our better selves and our better possibilities. So all of that is what we celebrate today. And we celebrate the family that loved her and supported her, and without whom she could not have done everything that she achieved. And her daughter is with us today, and wonderfully, her daughter is a leader in the legal field, in the fight for justice, in the fight to protect the freedoms of those who write, who think, who create, to protect their ability to be our consciences. She followed her mother to Columbia Law School, making them the first mother-daughter pair to ever serve in the same law faculty in the United States. My pleasure to introduce Professor Jane Ginsburg.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for that gracious and beautiful introduction. It is an honor to participate in the renaming of the Brooklyn Municipal Building for my mother, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. A daughter of Brooklyn, she was born here 88 years ago today. The family connection persists in her granddaughter, Mimi Ginsburg, who now lives and works in Brooklyn. Brooklyn's institutions shaped my mother's intellectual development, not just its public schools, of which she was a proud graduate, as you just heard, but also the public library, the Brooklyn Museum, and especially the Brooklyn Academy of Music. The last of these also contributed to her awakening to social injustice. She often spoke of the Black conductor Dean Dixon, who at BAM in 1947 and 1948 conducted youth concerts that deepened my mother's love of music. But the following year, and to her disappointment, Dixon, facing the racially motivated opposition of the New York Musicians Union and lacking conducting opportunities in the United States, left the U.S. for a better welcome in Europe, where he remained. For my mother, it was an early lesson in how prejudice deprives everyone of the talent it stifles. A lesson that guided the career whose achievements the renaming of this building celebrates. For all the family, I thank you for this inspiring event.
Thank you so much, Professor. I want to bring up someone who believes in the power of women to change history, and in her own life also refused to accept the limits that were placed upon her. My pleasure to introduce my partner in all things, our First Lady, Chirlane McCray.
Oh. Good afternoon, Brooklyn. I said, good afternoon, Brooklyn. Yeah, this is a perfect day to make history, isn't it? Or should I say herstory? I want to thank you, Professor Jane Ginsburg, for your beautiful words. We speak often about how important it is to build movements and how change doesn't come easy. But your mother, she was her own movement. Before she authored so many brilliant opinions from the bench, before she was the notorious RBG, she was already a hero to me and women across the world. Because we saw in her story a mirror to our own. The daily indignities, not being called on in class, having to work twice as hard to prove ourselves, being told to stifle our ambition, our dreams, and to take a back seat to our own lives. Ruth Bader Ginsburg refused to back down. She showed us how to overcome. And she did it like only a Brooklynite can, tough on the outside, but filled with compassion, focused on substance over style, and with an indomitable spirit, who took every punch that life threw and punched back. Those kind of women change history. They are the women we need to remember, and that has been our mission in this administration. Our city would not be without amazing women like Justice Ginsburg, without their contributions, without their hard work. But if you look around, it doesn't always seem that way, does it? We don't have many statues built or buildings named in honor of women and their achievements. So today is another big step to rewrite that story, because the women of New York City deserve to be recognized more than 1 month every year. Justice Ginsburg will live on in Brooklyn and in our city forever, right here, every day in this building, and continues inspiring us and all of our children. They will see her name, they will learn her story, and they will continue her fight for equality and justice for all. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone who is here today, and especially two women who are making herstory themselves as leaders in this city. Assemblymember and Brooklyn Democratic leader Rodneyce Bichotte, thank you so much for joining us. And Councilmember Dharma Diaz, thank you. And also a special thank you to my colleague from the City Council joining us from Central Brooklyn, Councilmember Robert Cornegy. And we thank the family members who are here, in addition to Professor Ginsburg, the granddaughter of Justice Ginsburg, Mimi Ginsburg, is here. Thank you. Granddaughter Clara Spera is here. Thank you. And Clara's husband, Rory Boyd. Thank you. Everyone, the idea to create this tribute here in the center of Brooklyn, the idea of creating a permanent place to remember and to cherish Justice Ginsburg, that idea came from Borough President Eric Adams, and we thank him. And there are many ways to remember someone, to appreciate them, to celebrate them, but listen, when you name a building where the work of the people is done, where you name a building where people are helped, and we are reminded that democracy requires us as public servants to be there for everyone, just like once upon a time, a young woman from Midwood believed she could change the world. In this building, young people will get the help they need on the way to their futures. This is truly a living memorial, a place that will carry on a great tradition. So with that, I want to thank, for a great idea and for following through on a great idea, the Borough President of Brooklyn, Eric Adams.
Thank you so much. My mom cleaned the houses of people so that she could move us out of a terrible condition during the 60s. And Mom used to iron clothing and go to homes. And when she was able to finally save up enough money, after being on her knees, cleaning the bathrooms and the kitchens of so many, she walked into the bank's office, and sitting across the table from her was the attorney that she cleaned his house. And he said, "Dorothy, what are you doing here?" And Mom said, "This is my house that I'm buying." And after the closing, Mom went to his home and she cleaned up. When she finished, he fired her. He says, "How dare you think you can buy a house? How dare you think you could take your family into Queens?" Mom went in the subway station. She stated that she waited for the trains to go by, and she yelled and she screamed and she cried. She dried her eyes because she stated she had 6 children that she had to raise in that small house. I share that story to you, Professor, because your mother reached out to the mothers who were told they had to show that they could no longer produce babies in order to have a job. Your mother fought on behalf of those mothers who were unable to purchase a home without their husband signing and allowing them to do so. Your mother fought on behalf of the Dorothy Adams of this country that not only showed their daughters what they can become, but they showed their sons that they could become the first black borough president in Brooklyn. And so it's an honor for me, across the street, that your mother provided my mom. The building now would be named after your mom. And no one would be able to come into this building without processing a deed or a claim, without understanding it was because we had a Justice Ginsburg. And so the significance of this moment is not merely putting a name on the structure, but is putting a place in history to define who we are, because women all across this country look towards Justice Ginsburg and hope that finally this country could become a place that is fair, not only based on your ethnicity or your gender, but is fair based on the American experience. And so I want to also thank the First Lady, who is going all over this city and dismantling the belief that we can't have statues of diversity, that we can look into our neighborhoods and buildings and people can see themselves in this city. Our secret weapon is our diversity. It acknowledges the existence of all who made this city and country what it is. And so today we honor a great representative of the greatest race alive, and that's the human race. Congratulations to your family. Congratulations to our mayor that took an idea and made it a reality. Thank you, New York City and Brooklyn.
Okay, now the moment we have all been waiting for. I'd like to ask the professor and First Lady, Borough President, to go to the right side here of this column, and the other family members to the left side of the column. And we're going to unveil the nameplate. But I can tell you that with this act, we will officially name this building the Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg Municipal Building.
Very good. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Yeah. Let's go look at it. There it is. Here, come on up. No.
Good.
It actually happened.